All right. 5. The Greeks, however, Crassius, rejoined Catullus, who were eminent and illustrious in their respective states, as you are, and as we all desire to be in our own republic, bore no resemblance to those Greeks who forced themselves on our ears, yet they did not in their leisure avoid this kind of discourse and disputation. And if they seem to you as they ought to seem impertinent, who have no regard to times, places, or person, does this place, I pray, seem ill adapted to our purpose, in which the very portico where we are walking, and this field of exercise, and the seats in so many directions, revive in some degree the remembrance of the Greek gymnasia and disputations? Or is the time unseasonable, during so much leisure as is seldom afforded us, and is now afforded at a season when it is most desirable? Or are the company at a season or are the company unsuited to this kind of discussion when we are all of such a character as to think that life is nothing without these studies? I contemplate all these things, said Crassius, in a quite different light, for I think that even the Greeks themselves originally contrived their palaestrae and seats and porticos for exercise and amusement, not for disputation, since their gymnasia were invented many generations before the philosophers began to prate in them, and at this very day, when the philosophers occupy all the gymnasia, their audience would still rather hear the discuss than a philosopher. And the discus than a philosopher. And as soon as it begins to sound, they all desert the philosopher in the middle of his discourse, though discussing matters of the utmost weight and consequence, to anoint themselves for exercise, thus preferring the lightest amusement to what the philosophers represent to be of the utmost utility. As to the leisure which you say we have, I agree with you, but the enjoyment of leisure is not exertion of mind, but relaxation. 6. I have often heard from my father in law in conversation that his father in law, Laelius, was almost always accustomed to go into the country with Scipio, and that they used to grow. Wait a minute. That they used to grow incredibly boyish again when they had escaped out of town, as if from a prison into the open fields. I scarcely dare to say it of such eminent persons, yet Scaevola is in the habit of relating that they used to gather shells and pebbles at Caeta and Laurentum, and to descend to every sort of pastime and amusement. For such is the case that as we see birds form and build nests for the sake of procreation and their own convenience, and when they have completed any part, they fly abroad in freedom, disengaging from their toils in order to alleviate their anxiety. So our minds, wearied with legal business and the labors of the city, exalt and long to flutter about, as it were, relieved from care and solitude. No, solitude. In what I have said to Scaevola, therefore, in pleading to Curius, I said only what I thought. For if, said I, Scaevola, no will shall be properly made but what is of your writing, all of us citizens will come to you with our tablets, and you alone shall write all of our wills. But then, continued I, when will you attend to public business? When to that of your friends? When to your own? When, in a word, will you do nothing? Adding, for he does not seem to me to be a free man who does not sometimes do nothing, of which opinion, Catullus, I still continue, and when I come hither, the mere privilege of doing nothing and of being fairly idle delights me. As to the third remark, which you added, that you are of such disposition as to think life insipid without these studies, that observation not only does not encourage me to any discussion, but even deters me from it. For as Caius Lucilius, a man of great learning and wit, used to say, that what he wrote he would neither wish to have read by the most illiterate persons, nor by those of the greatest learning, since the one sort understood nothing, and the other perhaps more than himself, to which purpose he also wrote. I do not care to read Persius, for he was, as we know, about the most learned of all our countrymen, but I wish to read Laelius Decimus, with whom we were also acquainted, a man of worth and of some learning, but nothing of Persius. So if I am now to discuss these studies of ours, should not wish to do so before peasants, but much less before you, for I had rather that my talk should not be understood than be censored.